to A1R Psychic Radio. You're here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic, all the way from the Gold Coast. What an interesting week it's been around the world. We've had, hurricanes in the USA. We've got bushfires. We've had trouble in the Middle East. We've just, and COVID just seems to be something that seems to be the gift that keeps on giving that no one wants. So it's sort of, it's hard to try and find some positive slant on the world when we're in such crisis in so many ways. And it's something that I think that in certain times, I think we get numb to it all. It's like there's just been so much that we've had to contend with and deal with that it's like, oh, not that again. Oh, is that all? And we start to sort of become desensitized, I think, to the things that are going on around us and the things that are important to us in our lives, like our family, our friends, and the things that should put a smile on our face, all of a sudden just become part of this mishmash of what our world is about. And it's sort of almost like it's taking the joy out of our lives. So let's try and put some joy back into our lives with this week's Simply Tarot card of the week, which is the World card. And it's one of my favourite cards because it has so many diverse and different sort of connotations to the card that there's something in there for everyone. So the beginning of the card is overseas trip. Well, I'm going to say that not many of us are able to do that at the moment. Borders across the world aren't exactly open at the moment. So if you're fortunate enough to be taking a trip overseas, well done. For most of us, it's going to be money luck. It's going to be the world in the palm of our hand. Now, that's the area that I'd like to focus on. We all have the opportunity to have something sitting in the palm of our hand that we can create new opportunities, new beginnings, start something fresh and new, even if it's just getting out of bed and putting a smile on your face and saying, today I'm going to absorb the joy that's in my life. I'm not going to sort of turn the telly on and focus on, the world events and everything seems to be sort of negative and there's never an end to COVID. Let's just have a media-free day and let's just enjoy the world and enjoy the joy that can be given to us even in the simplest of things, like a small child coming up and showing you a picture or a drawing or something that they've done, or they've built something out of Lego. That's joy. We don't always have to have joy in some major monumental event. It can be something simple. It can be somebody sort of just picking up a phone and saying, how are you? That can be a joyful event. So this week I'd like everybody to try and focus on at least once a day on something that brings joy into their lives. I think we need to try and change the energy of the world at the moment and bring our world into a more joyful, happy place, somewhere that we can find something positive out of our lives. I think that's really important since we've been going through this pandemic that seems like forever. So moving straight on to the astrology section, it seems to grow each week. We still have the sun in Virgo. Now, when the sun's in Virgo, to me, that's the time when we all need to take a really good, long, hard look at our physical health. Now, that means what are we putting in our mouths? What are we doing for some sort of exercise, recreation, and looking after ourselves? Now, exercise doesn't necessarily mean that it's got to be strenuous and off to the gym and running around the park. It can be simply as walking out into the garden and doing something that gives you pleasure, or walking up and down the hall. Just making sure that you get some sort of movement in your life, but movement to me that also brings you joy. There's no point in doing something that you absolutely detest doing, because I'm sure that doesn't do your body and your soul any good if you're forcing yourself to do some form of exercise that you absolutely don't like doing. So find again something that's going to bring you some joy. So we have the sun in Virgo, which is making a beautiful aspect, or an easy flowing aspect called a trine, to Uranus in Taurus. Now, what this means is we all have opportunities, I think, to bring those light bulb moments into our lives, to bring things into our lives that are different, that are joyful, that can be sudden, that can be unexpected, that can be coming out of nowhere. And I think by sort of trying to change our thinking around to being more joyful, we may just find we'll get some light bulb moments to some of the things that have been troubling us, or get some creative new ideas, or some new opportunities might even open up for us that were closed to us before because of our attitude. Our attitude wasn't ready and open to explore new potential opportunities that can bring our lives so much more peace and joy into our lives. We also have the Mars, the planet of action, and also known as the planet of war, is conjunct the new moon in Virgo. Now, the new moon in Virgo only has hours to go, but it's really, really interesting that for some of you over this last few days, and probably even a couple of days leading up to it. So let's bring in the last 4 days. You would have had trouble sleeping, and it wasn't necessarily you were bothered or concerned about anything or were worried about anything. It was just almost like your mind didn't want to close down for the night and allow you to have restful sleep. Some people have been messaging me and saying they've had songs playing through their head all night. You know, is this a sign? Is there a message in this for me, Amanda? Sometimes it's just our body's way of dealing with the new moon. Sometimes the new moon can take on an energy like a full moon where we sort of feel disorientated, we can't sleep, we can't focus, we can't settle. And sometimes that happens when we're ready for a major shift in our lives. And particularly if you're a Pisces, you'll find that this was sort of in the new moon was in the opposite sign to you in Virgo. So that can sometimes amplify it even more so. So I'm pleased to say the new moon's coming to an end today, so that those of you that haven't been able to rest properly will be able to at least get a good night's sleep in the next 24 hours. So we also have the part of fortune, which is not a planet, but it's known as an Arabian part in astrology. Now it's conjunct or holding hands Mercury, the planet of communication, in Libra. So what does this mean for us in basic terms? What this means is that we're not going to find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow with the leprechaun, but it means that we're going to find something to bring some joy or some peace into our lives, particularly through some form of communication. Now, communication can take on many different forms. It doesn't necessarily having a conversation with another person. That's one form. It can come in the form of a text message, an email, but it more importantly can come in the form of listening to a piece of music, and all of a sudden, even though you know the song, you've played it 1,000 times before, all of a sudden there's a message in there for you or an answer to a situation that's been troubling you or that you've been seeking an answer to. It could be simply watching a movie and it's like, yes, I can really relate to that. That really makes sense to me. It's what I've been going through or the answers that I've been searching for. So maybe look for communication in an unusual sort of form, not necessarily as in a direct conversation with somebody. It could come in an unusual thing. Could be just, you see the title of a book and all of a sudden that seems illuminated and that's the answer. Communication can come in many different forms. And with it being in Libra, it's asking us to be able to bring our lives into balance, also look for the truth. We're looking to find truthful answers. We're looking to try and bring peace and harmony into our lives in a way that we may not have been able to do so previously. So I think it's a really important time this year where we really do focus on our physical health. We're looking to bring more peace and joy into our lives, but we're also looking to do it in a way that is calming and settling to us and gives us some solutions or some answers. Now, we also have Venus, the planet of love and affection, which is also sitting in Libra, but is not holding hands with the part of fortune or Mercury. Venus is sitting by her lonesome there, sort of just enjoying and basking in the glory of being back in her own sign, where she feels very, very comfortable, and she's sort of asking each and every one of us to look at the prettier side of life, to look at things that give us joy. Some people have been redecorating their homes or purchasing a few little trinkets to make themselves feel better, or having a new hairdo or buying a new outfit. It's a time of sort of, really making everything that we can feel beautiful and luxurious and making us feel better about ourselves. But Libra is also making a really nice positive angle, or known as a trine, to Jupiter in Aquarius. So they're both sitting in air signs. Jupiter sort of is asking us to try and expand our opportunities, think outside the square, do something different, look at it from a different angle. Even though Jupiter's going retrograde or seemingly backwards at the moment, it just intensifies the energy of Jupiter, where Jupiter's really soul searching and really seeking some answers, some solutions to things. Jupiter's sort of saying we're not just going to sit here and accept the status quo. What we're going to be looking for is some new, innovative, fresh, exciting ideas, things that we can expand on, things that maybe we can share with other people. Maybe we can sort of start a real revolution here of getting other people to think along different lines. You know, they've always believed and thought this way. Maybe we can shake that up and show them that there's another side to life. There's a, you know, a whole new area of investigation or learning or job creation that we've never thought of before. And what Venus's role here is to sort of bring it in such a way that it's warm, it's fuzzy, it's exciting, it feels sort of beautiful, but at the same time, it's a very open, very truthful way of looking at things. So there really is some new opportunities out there this week for those that might be wanting to step outside their comfort zone and move their life into a different direction with something that's got more excitement, more truth, maybe more opportunities. And opportunities don't always have to come in the form of money. It can be in self-growth or just being able to follow your passion or your dream that's never been open to you before because of other areas of your life that have needed more attention. And sometimes that's just the case that, you know, we go through life and because we have so many responsibilities like a young family or money restrictions or whatever, it's not the right time, that we tend to put some of our dreams on the back burner and we put them up on the shelf and say, one day I'll be able to do that. Well, maybe that one day has just arrived. And I think if there's anything positive that's come out of being in this pandemic is that a lot of people have been given opportunities or see ways in solutions just like that now that they couldn't see before because things have shifted and changed. All of a sudden, they've been thrust into working from home. So working from home has given them the freedom to pack up and move back to a place that they really do call home. And, you know, there was never the work opportunities to stay there. So there's been lots of amazing stories that have come out of this that couldn't have happened if we hadn't had a pandemic and people weren't forced to contribute to their day-to-day lives in a different way. And I know relocation has been one of the big things. And it's interesting the amount of people that have told me that, you know, as much as they found they weren't happy about being thrust into this, but out of this has come this amazing opportunity where they have been able to relocate to move back home and to work from home. And it's given them an incredibly different work-life balance, but also brought their lives into a position that they never dreamed was possible, that they could, you know, go home, live in a small community, still have a meaningful job, but be surrounded by the things that were familiar to them, the people that they grew up with, their family, their friends, and just having a less stressful sort of life and still having, you know, the good things in life too, and not really losing out on income and things like that, but their lives have just been reorganised. So we also still have the same culprit. We've got Pluto sitting in Capricorn. We'll be there till 2024. It's almost sort of like Pluto's been there forever. He's been there since 2008. So it's been a very long tug of war and transit there of Pluto moving through Capricorn, trying to get each and every one of us to transform our lives in some way, but trying to transform the way governments behave around the world and how they make decisions and how they look towards the future with things like climate change and sort of reorganising, I think, economies, which is what COVID has done for us. Every nation around the world has had to reorganise their economy in some way. So maybe Pluto's role hasn't been such a bad thing. Maybe it's been a good thing because it's shaken a lot of things up in ways that we never thought was possible. We're going to talk with Susan in Maryville in Tennessee. Are you there, Susan?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you, Susan. Do you have a question I can work with, please, sweetie?
Can you do just a general reading?
Yeah, I can do a normal reading for you. I just always check with the person to make sure that they don't have a really pressing question that they'd like me to work with. The first thing that they're showing me around you, Susan, is that there's been a lot of change in your life, particularly, I'm going to say, in the last 3 or 4 months. So has that been you consistently working on trying to bring improvement into your life, you know, like sort of really looking at everything under a microscope?
That's true.
Yeah, and it's good. I want to say I'm not saying there was so much in the word of surprise in this. I think it was more like, oh, really? Did I let that get to that point? oh, I don't know why I allowed that to happen. Do you know what I mean? Like you'd just been so busy, I think, sort of trying to keep everything together. And now that you've had this opportunity to examine everything, you've now sort of thought, well, gee, I've overdone that lesson or I haven't done enough work over here or whatever. Look, it's all perfect. It's all fine. It's all the way that it's meant to be. I'm going to say by the end of September, it's like we can slowly start to sort of open the door and see what's ahead of us. There is going to be some new and exciting things on the horizon, but I want to caution you and suggest to you to just take your time. Don't try and force things. If something doesn't feel ready, then just let it sit, because we don't want to bring something on board too quickly and not gain the maximum out of it that we can gain. And particularly if it's a new, exciting opportunity, we want to gain as much as we can out of that. We don't want to get just a little bit when we can have a big bit. So are you looking to change your job in the next 12 months, Susan? Because I'm seeing sort of job with question marks, and then it's sort of like, oh, I'm not sure that I'm ready, or I haven't quite decided what it is I want. So is that on the horizon for the next 12 months?
Yeah, actually, I have a new a job interview this Friday. I just got the call for it at an airport nearby.
Right. So are you excited about that?
I am.
Good, good. So do you think that could lead to, like, could this lead to, once you've landed this job, sort of other opportunities coming behind this, in conjunction with this job? Could it lead to not just where you start? Would there be opportunity for, say, promotion, do you think?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, because to me, I felt not so much the ultimate of where you're going, but to me, in 12 months' time, the job itself will have grown into something that's really, really, really exciting, something that sort of, it's not where you're starting off. So I'm taking from that, I'm pretty certain you're going to get this job. But to me, there's other steps behind it that sort of really expand out the role. And I wouldn't be at all surprised to see some sort of on-the-job training, not just the basic training when you start, but further training to get you ready for these future roles. And also sort of, they're going to call it training, but I'm also going to call it, there's going to be some study or some extra work that you'll put in with this above and beyond what they're asking for. It's like you willingly taking on board a separate thing that you think could enhance your chances. And I'm going to say, when that comes up, grab it with both hands, even if it might be difficult to fit in with family life. Do it because it is important, because it's going to allow you to achieve that promotion to where you want to go, the direction you want to go with the company, much faster than if you wait for them to give you the other component pieces. But look, I think life is going to get very exciting in the next 12 months, Susan. Is there also sort of changes around the place that you're living? Are you sort of looking to extend or do some modifications there?
Not so much. It's going to be a big increase in pay, though, the job that I'm looking at.
Right.
So, maybe end up getting my own place. I live with a friend of mine right now.
Oh, okay. No. I don't see you living with a friend. No, I can see you in a place of your own where I could see building work going on. So, that must mean then, yeah, that's why I asked whether you were thinking of renovating or, putting an extension on or something like that. No, what I was seeing was your place, and it was like a lot of activity going on. So that to me is just a good sign. If you're going into a new job with, increased salary, if that's going to put you in a position where you can be a homeowner, well, that's fantastic. Even if it is an old place that needs a bit of work done to it, that's fine. I mean, it's finally going to be a place you can call home. So, this is great, Susan, because I feel it's been a long time in coming for you to be able to get where you need to go. And that's amazing.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much. Are you picking up anything on a relationship? Are you able?
I did feel that there was a relationship coming, but I'm not going to say much before about April. It's like we've got to bed you into the job and sort of get the study or the training or whatever is going to be quite time consuming. And then sort of like once we get that sort of settled and sorted and you're really comfortable with that, then in comes the relationship with the dark-headed man. And that might be why you're buying the house too. Maybe it's something you're going to do together.
Right.
It'll be fun.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Right.
Lovely
Thank
to
you
talk
so
to
much.
you, Susan. Thank you, dear. Bye-bye. We're going to talk with Phoebe now in Rochester Hills in Michigan. Are you there, Phoebe?
Hi there.
Hi, Phoebe. Do you have a question I can work with, sweetie?
Well, yes, actually, I'm a little curious as to if my Phoebe's father, I don't know, it's not really, if he's gonna actually kind of come back to us and treat us better and show back up in our lives.
Phoebe, that's always a difficult situation when you've been in a relationship with someone and it's sort of, gone sour and you sort of feel that it's not finished, but at the same time, you don't want to repeat performance of what there was in the past either. We want some sort of hope that it's going to be better or an improved model on what we had before. They're showing me mixed signals here, Phoebe, and it's not that I want to be confusing or not clear with you. I feel when they show me a mixed signal, I've got to share that with you for what it is. Now, part of him is telling me that he doesn't want to come back. He thinks it's over, it's finished, it's whatever. But yet there's another part of him that's saying, oh, I'd give my back teeth to be able to go back there and be with Phoebe and try again. So it's like he's got a confusing energy about him about whether he wants it or he doesn't want it. Now, I'm not saying that he hasn't seen the light and hasn't realised that a fair proportion of the reasons why this relationship came to a close was his responsibility. It's just that I don't know whether he really fully understands what it would take to make this situation right. So it's not so much that he wouldn't come back or you wouldn't have the opportunity to try again. It's just I'm not sure that he fully comprehends what needs to be improved. Now, that makes it quite a stressful situation because you can sit down and explain to someone what's needed and they say, yes, I understand. But then them putting that into action and actually actioning it and trying to improve it is another thing. And I'm just not convinced, Phoebe, that this is the right relationship. I do see him coming back and I do see you sort of making this, what I'm going to term as a very sloppy attempt to try and make this right. But the whole time you sort of feel that there's something lacking in this. And it's like, well, what do I do about it? I've still got feelings. I'm still in love with you, but this is not right either. I think the only thing that you can do is just take it day by day. When it does happen, don't necessarily project that this is the happily ever after. Don't think it's going to fall apart either. Just go through the motions of each day. And eventually the answer, the right direction will come out of this. But I strongly sort of feel, and I don't wish to be a dampener on this, but I feel that this is not maybe the right relationship. I feel we need to complete this, and I think you'll come out the other side. And then I think you'll be ready to bring in a more grown-up relationship. But I think this is important that we honour this, that you still have very strong feelings for him. He still has strong feelings for you. And while that's there, it's not complete. So, sometimes we need to go back and have another look. And it's like we see then that, okay, we can't change this. We can't improve it. We got the best we could out of this situation. So I hope that's helped you a little bit there, Phoebe. I know that might sound a bit confusing, but it's sort of, I don't mean it to sound confusing. I'm just trying to share with you that they weren't showing me that, yes, this was great or no, it wasn't great. It was sort of like a mixture of everything all rolled into one. You have learnt a lot about yourself, though, Phoebe, during the time of being in this relationship and also the time you've spent alone. And I think that's going to be one of the things that you're going to surprise yourself with, that the fact that you are able to sort of almost predict what the outcome's going to be. Like you could be planning to do something together and you already know what his response is going to be or how he's going to word it or whatever the case may be. And you think, well, gee, that's interesting. I sort of almost know what's going to happen before it happens. But that's just you starting to listen to yourself and showing yourself that you do have a tremendous power within yourself, that you no longer just put up with things for the sake of it. You know, if it doesn't suit you, you speak up and you say so. So look, I think there's a lot to be gained from this, but I also think there's, you know, a real different acceptance that will wash over you with this situation too. So has there been a change of residence recently, Phoebe?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Has there been a change of residence recently, or is that just a change in your attitude?
Well, it's, I mean, I moved from Cleveland to Rochester, um, back in March, and
Right.
we did try again, back in late June, and
Mhm.
I pretty much put up a big boundary that in order for us to work on things, in order for me to come back to Cleveland, he had to make some changes. He needed to kind of do some self work, because
Mhm.
there was a lot of things that were really unhealthy that I didn't think were a good place to bring up a child in. And I was pregnant at the time, and I don't know. I mean, he possibly could have. Maybe it's him. Maybe he decided he didn't want to be in the apartment that he's been living in since he moved. Because he did he did get an apartment, in another area, um,
Mhm.
originally for me, but he really didn't talk to me too much about it. Um, it's very
Yeah, but
complicated.
a move, you know, back in March is still recent. You know, it's in the last 6 months or so, because they were just sort of
Yeah.
showing me with this move or whatever it was, that sort of brought you strength. It was like you really stepped into your own power. And that's what I think you've done. So, look, I think just take day by day and just see where this goes. But I think you've already sort of worked through a lot of this, sort of knowing that if things don't change, if he doesn't sort of at least meet you halfway, then there's not a lot more you can do. So, unfortunately, Phoebe, that's where we have to leave it. We've come to the end of the show. The show goes very quickly. I appreciate that. But, you know, we've had a busy week and we've got a busy week ahead of us as we try and find more joy in our lives. And I think, you know, many of us, I think, relinquish our own power a little bit too much. So, for all the females out there, I think you really need to sort of get a bit of Helen Reddy on the turntable and belt out that song, I Am Woman, and stand proud in your own energy. So, until next week, bye for now.